Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get ready to suck it! This what the rock is cooking! You just made the list! Woo! The champ is here!
Buckle up. It's time for a drive-by.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
Dear Ball Nation, say hello to the Bald Guy. It's Shooter here, and welcome to another episode of Drive By. Thanks for checking it out. I'm going to start off, get right off the gates. We got kind of a ladies' night theme going on here for the majority of this episode. I really want to talk and get into what I feel has been a groundbreaking week for the WWE, or really a couple weeks. But of course, Tuesday we came to the final of the Mae Young Classic. In my opinion, a groundbreaking tournament that the WWE set up, executed, and made something that matters. And there's a lot of things about this. I'm obviously going to talk about the final, but before we get to that, I want to talk about the tournament itself. You know, WWE has been doing tournaments pretty regularly now. We had the Cruiserweight, the UK, and now the Mae Young. And I guess on a personal note, I know New Japan does the G1. I know there's other tournaments out there in the world of professional wrestling, but other than the King of the Ring, you know, WWE didn't really do tournaments unless there was a reason, like a vacated title or something, and they had to do a storyline to get to that. Especially on the scale that we're doing this. Like I said, this is these shows are specific shows for the tournament. It's not like the King of the Ring tournament where they started out a few weeks out on Raw and do matches into it, and then you have your quarterfinals and finals, semifinals, or however they did it on, you know, the pay-per-view. That's not how these tournaments have been, you know, and they've done 3 different formats. If you think about it, they did I think the Cruiserweight, it was and I could be wrong, but I think the Cruiserweight was like a weekly show. Each episode came out weekly on the same night or something to that effect. And then the UK was a weekend tournament, and they actually showed it live over the weekend, Saturday, Sunday. And then the Mae Young, they recorded all but the final, and then I think they uploaded it either all at once or first, like maybe the first rounds and the quarterfinals. I don't know. I'm a little foggy on that because I was late getting to it. But, you know, the Mae Young Classic, the women's tournament, was, when the first 8 episodes were up on the WWE network, they were they were top 8 shows on the network were all the episodes of the Mae Young Classic. Like, that is an awesome thing to realize when you're a wrestling fan. Especially when you're a fan of what they are trying to do, the new outlook on women's wrestling in WWE. It's awesome. And this tournament lets some people shine that might not, you know, ever get that spotlight. You know, we have, there's too many really to, like, every competitor, there were 32 competitors, female lady wrestlers in this, and all of them were good. Now, some of them were really good, and some of them need some work, but none of them were like bad, like they didn't belong there. They were all good, competent wrestlers who could absolutely benefit from being at the NXT level and working their way onto the roster. And I think pretty much everyone I saw potential in that being an opportunity. Some of the ones that, stand out for me, obviously the two that made it in the final, Kairi Sane and Shayna Baszler, and we'll talk about them in a little bit. But, I mean, you had the likes of Bianca Belair with the long hair gimmick. That's pretty cool. Piper Niven is definitely not your stereotypical female WWE female wrestler, and, she's a different way, but fits the mold of Nia Jax, and there's a niche that could be filled there. And then, another standout like Toni Storm, who's very, very young and could really be molded into a future, face of the division, which is awesome. And some other people I want to mention, just kind of like honorable mentions, like Candice LeRae, who is Johnny Gargano's wife. I'm sure that they're working something out with her, considering her husband works there. But, even like someone like Tessa Blanchard, the Tully Blanchard's daughter, like these people were getting a chance to shine, and they really worked on their own to get that spotlight. They didn't work with, oh, my husband works here, or my dad worked here, and, I had this, all these women, every single one of them, earned their spot in this tournament, and they showed why. And that's important, because if you're going to have a tournament like this, be it cruiserweights, UK, women's, if they do a tag or anything like this, it's got to be worth the watch, and it's got to be quality entertainment. And it was, and all these tournaments have been. And then when we talk about, before we get into the actual discussion of the final, you talk about everything that it added, everything that was added to this final, everything that made this final feel way more important. You had people coming out. You had, like, for instance, in the crowd, the stars of the Netflix show Glow, which is about women's wrestling in the 80s. It's a pretty good show. I've watched a couple episodes. It's definitely interesting and entertaining. Of course, we had Ronda Rousey and I think one other of the 4 horsewomen with her. And, of course, that's tied to Shayna, and that's fine. But it makes it feel more important. I mean, you had Beth Phoenix in the audience. You had some of the current female superstars on the roster in the crowd. And it made it feel more important. It made it feel like it meant something. And that's really why this thing, that really emphasizes the importance of this thing. Sorry. And it really emphasizes what this was about. And this is about the future. The cruiserweights and the cruiserweight tournament was awesome. They have not necessarily been presented the best on television, so they are struggling. But the women's division on both Raw and SmackDown, while you can make your arguments about this not being great and that not being great, but as a whole, have been presented pretty well. So they're in a really good place. So it's not like these women are going to be pulled and try to establish something. Something's already established. So you put, however many you thought were either diamonds in the roughs or studs ready to go, you put them in NXT, you work them out, you get the kinks out that you need to get out, you groom them for the WWE spotlight. And I really feel like the women's division is just about to explode in the WWE. And I'm excited. I like it. I like seeing these women go hard and execute moves that even 5 years ago, we didn't think we'd ever see them doing in a WWE ring. So I like where this is going, and it shows the forward thinking, and it shows the direction of the company, that things that we maybe perceive about Vince and his thought on the business, they can change, folks. They can change. I have another strong example of that at the end of the show. But before that, we got to talk about the final of the Mae Young Classic and the match that it was, and again, everything that it means for the future of this division. Hang tight. We're going to be right back. Welcome back, Nearfall Nation. Continuing our discussion on the Mae Young Classic. Of course, this past Tuesday, they had the finals in Las Vegas after SmackDown, 10 o'clock on the network, preempted 205 Live to bring us the live final of this groundbreaking tournament. And I want to discuss it for a minute because it's funny when you see reactions online that people have to some of these things. Now, the finals came down to Shayna Baszler and Kairi Sane. Two independent wrestlers. Sane is signed with NXT now, I believe. I think she's been signed there for a little bit before the Mae Young Classic. I think. I could be wrong on that, but I know she is currently signed. I don't know about anyone else from the Mae Young Classic. But we went into this match, and before, I saw a lot of talk online on people saying, Shayna didn't deserve to be there. Of course they're going to give her the win because she's friends with Ronda Rousey, and they're doing this whole 4 horsewoman story and this and that and the other, and it's not fair to Kairi Sane and blah, 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 blah. Now, and this is why I say the blah blahs. Because people sometimes shoot their mouth off without really having any idea what they're talking about. Now, has Kairi Sane been doing this longer? Sure she has. As far as pro wrestling, yes. Kairi Sane has, from everything that I understand, started with an organization called World Wonder Ring Stardom and started training around 2011, debuted as a pro 2012, and was there winning multiple championships with the organization until the time that she came in for the Mae Young Classic and signed with NXT. Okay, so 2012, 2017. And she's got a good resume. She's been working hard. She's done very, very well for herself. Now, Shayna Baszler, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that. She's got this reputation on the IWC, the Internet Wrestling Community, that she's just getting handed everything because of who she is and who she's friends with. And I laugh at this because if you know anything about the Internet Wrestling Community, you know that they like to act like they're smarter than everyone. And, it's funny because technically I'm part of the Internet Wrestling Community because I'm doing an internet podcast. But I'm just saying, the majority of people who talk wrestling that consider themselves a smark or a smart mark, the ones who aren't smart marks, and that's the majority of them, they talk like they know about stuff when they really don't know everything. Because let's be honest, when it comes to professional wrestling, there's so much going on that you can't know everything. You might have an idea. See, I had an idea, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I knew all this stuff off the top of my head, but it takes 3 seconds to Google and research stuff, guys. So before you just start shooting your mouth off, work your fingers out. It's not a hard concept. But, as I was saying, you had comments about Shayna and how she doesn't deserve it. She's only there because she's Rousey's buddy and she hasn't earned it and wore her stripes and this, that, and just stop with that, okay? First of all, she's trained in MMA. She's an MMA fighter. I think she has 20 or 30 pro MMA fights under her belt, winning, I think, 14 of them by knockouts or something like that. So, not too shabby and a legit badass, regardless of what you want to say. I saw comments that her style was ugly. Well, let me tell you something. it's professional wrestling. Nobody's style should be the same, and not all of it should be pretty. If everything looked 100% choreographed to be beautiful, then it doesn't look real anymore, and we all complain when it doesn't look real. So how are you complaining about this? Like, this kind of contradiction from fans just drives me up a frickin' wall. Okay, but back to Shayna. You know, people say she didn't do enough to deserve this spot. Well, first of all, who are you to say who deserves it? I mean, I get it. You're the fans who pay for the product, but you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. And besides that, you know, she busted on the scene under the radar. Yeah, she has the association with Ronda Rousey, but she's earned her way, people. She's been on the indie scene since 2015. She's held multiple different titles in different organizations. You know, her first kind of association with pro wrestling is she came out on Ring of Honor with O'Reilly and Fish, I believe. Red Dragon. She came out with them and did something. I don't think she was never with Ring of Honor that I could see, but she worked for the same organization that Sane worked for, WWRS, and she's won titles there. She's won titles in other organizations. I think the last organization that she wrestled for before coming into the Mae Young Classic is Shimmer. I mean, I'm not sure what more you want from her. Like, why is it that Sane's been wrestling on the independent since 2012, and just because Shayna has only been doing it since 2015, she doesn't deserve it? It's the same career path. She didn't get handed anything. She didn't walk into a performance center and say, hey, I'm Ronda's buddy, give me a tryout and a job. Like, it didn't work like that. Like, I'm not, like, I don't equate, unless I'm missing a complete picture that I don't see, like, this argument makes zero sense to me and has no place anywhere in this situation. The match itself, I really want to talk about it for just a second, guys. Like, that match was fantastic, and again shows how unbelievable this women's division is about to get. Again, like I said, I don't know who all signed, but we'll see. But, you know, I saw a lot of comments that Shayna did not sell or was no selling. See, I saw parts where she didn't sell, but here's the thing, guys. She's bigger than her opponent. She should be tougher than her opponent. In all theory, I mean, they were telling the story of David versus Goliath, and David won. That's it. It was the story. She was no-selling things because she was probably trying to tell that story. Like, that's why I liked this match, because there was storytelling. You know, Kairi Sane was hitting her sometimes with everything she had, quote unquote, and it wasn't phasing her. But see, you know, everyone focuses on the fact that, oh, she was no-selling, but they don't comment on the fact that when she got Sane in the move that the announcers told us she won every match in this tournament with, in her submission hold, and Sane hit her in the ribs 4, 5, 6 times, however many times it was, to where she let go and grabbed her ribs and got out of the hold she beat everybody with, and the match continues. And then what happened? Then we saw her selling, and she was selling the ribs, and she was selling, you know, the fact that she couldn't do what she was doing the whole first part of the match because Kairi hurt her ribs and hurt her ribs badly. It was pretty much laid out that is what this is the way that I interpreted the story that they told, that her ribs were injured so badly she couldn't compete at the level when she first came in, and that's why she lost. This was an awesome storytelling match. If I had to pick on anything, I'd pick on the fact that Sane didn't sell the elbow injury that they were also playing. I mean, she did, not on a consistent basis. She dropped that elbow for the win. She should have sold that it hurt a little more, but I'm not going to even pick on that because these two have such a bright future ahead of them that I can't even, like, I'm so excited for women's wrestling. And the bottom line is that's why we had this Mae Young Classic. This is a step in they now call it the evolution. It's no longer the women's revolution. It's the women's evolution. And it's continuing to get better and better and better. And listen, I didn't care who won that match. I don't think one deserves it more than another just because they put a couple more years in on the independent scene. That's ridiculous. They're both working their asses off. They both deserve to be in that final. And they both put on a hell of a show for the fans. And if this is any indication of what the future of women's wrestling and the WWE looks like, we should all be super pumped. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I want to wrap today's show off with a couple more topics I just really want to touch on before I go. I'm not going to spend a lot of time sticking with our theme of the day for the first part. Asuka. Asuka's coming to Raw. It's been announced. Promo was given on Monday, or the vignette, as we like to call them, was shown on Monday. Asuka's coming to Raw. I want to touch on this because I saw a reaction to this online on Twitter by a well-known wrestling YouTuber doing a similar thing that I'm doing, but he's been doing it a lot longer and has video format and all that. I'm not going to name him. I'm a small fish in a big pond when it comes to him. He's got a lot of people that listen to him and hang on every word. But he's one of these... I don't understand how people hate the product but talk about the product. It blows my mind. Like, they complain and bitch about it constantly and can never say anything positive about it. And then they're like, well, it's because I love it so much and I want it to be better. You don't show that. You just don't. But that's a whole nother topic. But I wanted to touch on, I saw a tweet literally 30 seconds after it was announced that Asuka was coming to Raw that said, well, Asuka's buried. Are you kidding me? She hasn't even had a match on the main roster, and just because she went to Raw, you're going to say she's buried. That doesn't even make any sense. There's legit no thought, no forethought, nothing put into that response that makes any sense at all. None whatsoever. She's buried because she's on Raw. Listen, I know everyone that was pushing for her to go to SmackDown were doing so because they want to see the Charlotte Asuka match. And so do I. I want that match just as much as the next person. But here's the thing, guys. If you know anything about me, you know what I'm going to say. Frickin' patience, guys. Let's not just throw Asuka against Charlotte right away and blow it right off the bat. Let this thing kind of develop. If they're going to continue the streak that Asuka's on and being undefeated, and they're going to go with that on the main roster as well, then it 100% should be Charlotte that beats her. If it wasn't Ember Moon in NXT, then that's who it should be. It should be Charlotte. There's no other woman on the roster. You know my love for Bliss. That doesn't make sense. It's Charlotte. It has to be Charlotte. But let's not do it tomorrow. Come on, guys. Let this play out. This is what I hope for. I wanted them to be separate. I want them to be separate. I want them to be on different brands. If we do a brand shakeup, I hope they flip-flop. I'm good with that. Put Charlotte back on Raw, put Asuka on SmackDown. Let's keep them away from each other for at least a year. At least a year. Maybe longer, depending on how things go in the women's division. As you heard in this episode, a lot of good potential things could be on the way. Depending on how things shake up from this Mae Young Classic and who signs, who stays, who goes, who they keep, who they give the nod to. But guys, let's not throw Asuka and Charlotte on the same brand so they don't even have a chance to be in the same ring together. Let it develop. I want this. I want the Asuka. This is my dream. My dream booking. Asuka, Charlotte at WrestleMania. Not New Orleans. Not this upcoming. The following. Okay? Let's do it then. Let's let some time between these two. Let this develop and let that be the first ever. We know WrestleMania will probably always be Universal or WWE Championship. One of the two is always going to be the main event. Let's do a women's co-main event and for WrestleMania and have that be the real knockdown drag-out main event. Groundbreaking, earth-shaking, awesome. Another thing that was awesome was both shows, Raw and SmackDown this week. And I mean, the highlights, look, I'm going to give you the highlights. Roman and John Cena are knocking it out of the park. Say what you want about either one of the guys. All your arguments are invalid. Reigns needs work on the microphone. He's getting better working with Cena, which I've stated several times was going to happen. It's working. Will it get him over? I don't know. But it's working. His skills on the mic are improving. Now, let's go into another thing here. Braun Strowman, Brock Lesnar. Guys, people who complain about Brock Lesnar, listen. Brock Lesnar is there doing his job and doing it well. I'm going to argue that point till the cows come home. The man went through 2 tables at SummerSlam and had a third one dumped on him. Someone who makes the money that he makes and has the pull and clout that he makes doesn't have to do that. If he said no, they're not going to be like, oh, well, you better do that. No, he's Brock frickin' Lesnar, okay? He did that because he wanted to do it, because it told a story, and I know people think he hates wrestling, but he really doesn't. He likes the paycheck. And if it's a good story and he thinks it makes him look better, he's going to do it. And Braun Strowman, oh my God, one of the best things on Raw. One of the best things on Raw there is right now is Braun Strowman. He's quickly becoming my favorite wrestler. And I'm just going to leave it at that. He's quickly becoming my favorite thing to watch on WWE television. That's it. Go to SmackDown. The stuff they're building on SmackDown for Hell in a Cell, I will strictly go in, because I'm trying to wrap this up, guys. I'm going to strictly go into Kevin Owens and Vince McMahon. Holy cow. The headbutt, the frog splash, the whole potential for the storyline. Kevin freaking Owens delivering. Vince McMahon showing that he has confidence in this guy. Vince McMahon isn't going to take the stuff he took off of someone he doesn't trust. So, people defend it. I've said it before. I'm not the only one, but people hate and say that NXT stars come up to the main roster and are buried, and it's just not true. Do all of them make it? No, but a lot of them do, and the ones that do really do. And Kevin Owens has been a champion, like, almost most of his career in the WWE. I don't have the stats in front of me, but it's a lot. I'd venture to say he's been champ more than he hasn't been champ, but that could be off. But look at the guy's titles, okay? He's a huge part of this company right now, and the fact that he now just attacked Vince McMahon, not a lot of people do that, and especially with the brutality they allowed. I'm not saying second coming of Stone Cold Steve Austin, because that is blasphemous. But there are so many shades, and being that KO is a huge Stone Cold Steve Austin fan, if you know anything about Kevin Owens. Look, the guy's one of the best heels in the business right now, and he just manhandled the 72, I believe, year old billionaire evil genius, Mr. McMahon, and it was, to quote our boy The Miz, awesome. If you didn't like Raw and SmackDown this week, you're never going to like professional wrestling. Period. I'm just going to lump it together. You won't. So just stop watching and stop complaining, and let us who still love this enjoy it. Guys, it's been real. It's been fun. We'll see you next time.